This is Family Elliptic Ghost, and we're live on the air with Jenny Chan for the first time. And you're the director of the Pacific Atrocities Education, PAE, a San Francisco based nonprofit that you established in 2014. And we're going to talk about how you raise awareness to World War II atrocities in the Asia Pacific region, such as like with the Nanjing Massacre and Unit 731, Comfort Women, some other things we'll talk about. But I want to welcome you to the Family Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's great to talk to people. We like to, we've been on air since 2016. We're at 1,300 episodes. We like to be able to talk to people from around the world and bring attention to what people are really focused on, what they're passionate about. In that frame, we use, if people see that QR code on the screen now, we use a service called Podmatch to get book and find guests. So if you take your phone and you scan that QR code, you can find out about that with our affiliate opportunity.
And by the way, Happy New Year. I realized that this is your first episode for the year.
Yeah. Even though we've done 1,300, like this is the first for this year.
Yeah. So Happy New Year for your audience as well.
Well, thank you. And so before we get to the heart of your story, I always ask a couple questions of any guest, like what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So at my core, really don't I really think that the painful lessons of the past, and trying to ensure that's not erased or forgotten, and also the forgotten atrocities of from World War II in the Pacific. And in 2026, Japan is opening the year with buying tons of weapons from the United States and trying to remilitarize again, despite the fact that 80 years ago they have basically killed tens of millions of people in Asia. And growing up in America, I was also caught between the lessons I learned in school and also like what I hear from my family members, like my grandma, about about her life when she was younger. And I find that in school, what we learn is it's often glossed over, and I think like mainstream media always gloss over some of the stuff. And so then when you read reality, you're like, wait, hold on, wait a minute, this can't be true. And for example, the Asian theater of the war, which affected 30 million people in World War II. And if you think about it, it's not that long ago. So omitting that, it was a big deal for me. And also like the raw personal stories that I've heard from like people about the events like the Nanjing Massacre and also like Unit 731 and also biological weapons attack, and also how the Philippines fought against Japan at the time. It's also very interesting, and this learning from like official sources and like hearing stories from people who have lived through it, that disconnect really fueled me every day to bridge those gaps and try to amplify the voices that have been silenced.
I think it's real important to actually give people like actual history rather than kind of like colonial history, or because a lot of times what happens is like whoever wins the war or whoever has like certain interest, they run the narrative. And so then, we're living that in America right now. Is like certain people are like, erasing the efforts of African Americans in World War II. They're actually just totally acting like we were never there, getting rid of pictures and getting rid of everything.
Yes, and it's very fascinating too because like as I was uncovering like more about Philippines, I didn't even realize that the Philippines was like a whole colony, and it stemmed back from like the Spanish American War. And during the Spanish American War, it was like 250,000 Filipinos were killed. That's a lot of people to be killed. And like the Philippines was the first time where America really tried to like waterboard, like it was doing waterboarding for the first time in history. CIA learned a lot from that, but then like Teddy Roosevelt, who started this whole thing, he has like an association. I don't know if you know about this, but like Teddy Roosevelt Association, which like glorify what he does instead of
Yeah,
like telling the
yeah,
reality of what
yeah. Well,
he
that's the
did.
problem with like imperialism and colonialism, like the Monroe Doctrine, and like there's a lot of people that don't seem to learn from
Mhm.
history because they just like they choose to like have a vision of history that aligns with their mindset, right? So now we have a mindset in the world that's about disruptors, about tech bros, and about money, right?
Mhm.
And everything is like kind of Calvinistic, like the Calvinistic idea. There are a lot of these things that were even in the Morone doctrine was if you do something that you make millions or billions of dollars, that you are morally correct. You have
Yes.
a lot of power, you're morally correct. So that's what we saw in World War II.
And
People
even before
exercising those
that, I
spheres.
would
There's
say.
yeah, even before that, spheres of influence. Like if I have the
Mhm.
power, I can take it. Like so, Japan, if I have a power, I can take it. I can do what I want because I have the power to do it.
Well,
New
and
York.
also don't forget that Japan was able to militarize because of the United States. The United States, like Teddy Roosevelt, brought uh Japanese officials to Wall Street to fundraise. So what you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, like corporation
Yeah, yeah.
interest.
It's all the military-industrial complex. I mean, because they all have the same kind of. They had this idea that well, you can have a sphere of influence, right? You can control your neck of the woods until you actually overstep your bounds, and then you get pushed back. And so then we get into like these global conflicts, like this idea that people want to go back to this Monroe Doctrine, don't seem to understand. But that's going to create chaos. It's not going to make peace. It didn't make peace before. It's going to create more war. But I mean,
Right.
that's part of what the whole history
Exactly.
lesson
And it's
people don't
all
learn.
about making money. And right, like Philippines, they needed to conquer it. And also the press, like what you were saying, the press is very profit driven.
It's totally
So
profit driven.
what?
It's totally profit driven today. I mean, it's like I don't even know what the journalistic principles are. I mean, you have to find it like in non-linear media. Like is where things are now because you can't trust the normal gold standards like the Tiffany Network, CBS. I don't know if I can trust what's going on there. New
Mhm.
York Times is becoming co-opted. It's like a lot of things that I grew up in the 70s thinking, oh, go, I can read New York Times, I could read Time Magazine, I could read Wall Street Journal, I could read, certain things I knew that were going to be correct. And now I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, but even during like before, even in like when America conquered the Philippines, right? You see a lot, and this is like really the beginning of, I would say, the Pacific interference. And Teddy Roosevelt was really in charge and wanted America to be in the Pacific, and they wanted the Philippines to be a part of that sphere of influence. and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and what's fascinating to me is like a lot of those things really resonates today, like getting their resources, right?
Yeah, well, we
Does
want to
that
take
sound
we're
familiar?
trying to take like trying to say North America is South America and Americas are ours, right? So we
Right.
can just go to Greenland and just take it.
Yeah.
We can go to Venezuela and we can just take it, right?
Yeah.
And then we can say, well, China can take Taiwan, and I
Mhm.
guess maybe if China's the big dog, it's like, well, are they going to let China take Japan? I don't know what their mindset is, but they got this idea of that sphere of influence coming back, and they don't seem to have
Well,
paid attention.
Japan historically is more aligned with Americans. Teddy Roosevelt called them the Aryans, the Yankees of the East.
Mm-hmm.
And so they thought that they can trust Japan to be kind of like a junior partner in a sense in the Pacific. And so and so it's very interesting how that still plays out today when Japan is buying like military weapons from
Yeah,
the United States, and they're trying to revoke Article 9, which they're not supposed to like restart their
yeah,
military, but they're
yeah. That was part of the whole surrender negotiation was they're never supposed to militarize again, and now like then it's a kind of a duality. Is like if China can have Taiwan, are you saying Japan has a fiefdom and then China has a fiefdom? So it's a dual management between
well,
Japan and China.
Japan has a lot of military bases by the United States right now.
Hmm.
And so in a sense, it's kind of like in right before World War II, when Teddy Roosevelt handed Korea to Japan and say that, oh well, we're going to stop at China, right? But then Japan is not stopping, did not stop at China. In fact, they invaded China in
Hmm.
1931. And what's interesting is that, like, then why were so Americans really think that Pacific War started in Pearl Harbor. But in my honest assessment, I think it started 10 years before that in Manchuria, or it can start 20 years before even Manchuria, when Teddy Roosevelt handed Korea to
Hmm.
Japan. And
There's a
so
lot of atrocities associated with that, right?
yes, Koreans had comfort women. There were comfort women in Korea. There were also, like, they basically tried to erase their language. And even today, when I was traveling in Korea, like people are like protesting in front of Japanese embassy every Wednesday. And it's like, it's not that kind of like relationship that they want to have with their neighbors. But like, I don't really like see anything wrong with them protesting, because that's like a historical wound that is not
Well,
healed.
if you don't have a real reconciliation, like if Japan never really took steps to really reconcile, and the history books aren't really showing what's going on, and they haven't really done anything. And I guess maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like if people ask for reparations, like people ask for reconciliation, they ask for respect in history, right? But if you don't, within Japan, if you really don't have a sense of reconciliation, right? If they don't have any sense of redemption or even acknowledgement, well, that's not positive. How are you going to have a good relationship if you're not doing that?
Right, exactly. So, and also not to forget that the current day prime minister often go to Yasukuni Shrine. That's where they enshrine their war criminals. And so then it's just like, imagine if someone's going to like have a shrine for slave owners, or like
Yeah.
people
Well,
from the
even in
Confederate.
Germany, they have, specifically in Germany, they've had like anti-Nazi legislation and policies.
Right.
But it sounds like from what you're saying in Japan, it's like they're not doing
Opposite of
that.
that.
Yeah, they're not doing that. So I mean, to me, it's like if you're gonna have any kind of sense of, okay, I should have take some responsibility for the things. And this is the problem we have in the States with like with the Confederacy. There's it's like they never really took care of it. If you think about it, we never got our reparations as African Americans, right? We never got our 100 acres in a mule. The whole idea of the South basically just criminalize blacks and put us back into the cotton fields. So I
Yeah.
mean that's kind of what happened. So it's like, and even to this day they're still fighting it. You still
Yeah.
see they're still fighting it in their mindset. So I'm like, okay, so they never really acknowledge it. So I think I see some commonalities between what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. And it's like suppressed history too. Like they don't really, and so for me, it's very interesting to see that kind of like parallel history. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I think like your organization, like you founded in 2013. Like when you first founded it, what was the reaction? I mean, did you get a lot of people that were interested? Did you have to build like a
People
lot?
don't know what people didn't know what it was. Like
Hmm.
people still like today, if I talk to some media journalists, they might take a month to write an article because they have no idea what I'm talking about. So they need to do research, and then they're like, oh, it sounds terrible that 30 million people died. Are you sure this is the number? Then like they go back and then they Google it for a month, and then they got back to me. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry it took me this long, but I really needed to verify the number. I'm like, what is it that you don't understand, that like this many, like it's so unbelievable that people like kind of discredit what we do, right? But then I'm like, this is
Yeah.
real, this happened. I scanned like a million pages of the National Archives. Why are you questioning
Well, I
like
think it seems
specific?
it seems like to me like when you bring up something that's very powerful and it's true and it's negative, like it has a negative connotation, it doesn't give people like the warm fuzzy feeling, right? It
Hmm.
makes them have to think about human behavior,
Right.
right? And when people want to have narratives where they act like that things like that never happened, or they don't want to believe it happened. That's the biggest problem to actually making progress, because that allows, like what you just said, in Japan, for people to go still, be, not, celebrating people who are criminals,
Right.
right? So if you never address it and you don't, then people can get away with things like that because
Right.
nobody knows what you're doing, because they don't know the history, because you're too scared of it. You're scared. Oh, it's too controversial. It's too this. It's too that.
Right, exactly. But it's the truth, like it's historical truth. So just because it doesn't fit into their narrative doesn't mean that it's not true. And so I think it's, and I'm happy about what we're doing now, because like just last year we had high school students who have been on our website who then made a documentary and won National History Day. So I think what we're doing is resonating with some people, and yeah, and so I think I am proud of how we're trying to bridge that gap.
Well, I think it's super important for people to know history, because there's a certain type of mindset that's out there, and I mean, I always try to, and maybe I'm pinning it down, but it's like this idea of the disruptors that want
Right.
to break things. They just want to break. They don't want to know history. They just want to break everything. They think everything should be broken. But
Right.
there's some core concepts of like human civility, right? Like human rights.
Yes.
Like, yeah, those things are not like passe just because in your kind of dystopian AI world, you think that you just want to blow everything up and see what happens.
And
You
I
know,
think that's why AI is so dangerous right now. Because it can rewrite history, it's something that's not factual. And also, I don't know if you know of this guy named Lucky Palmer. He goes on and he's basically like a military industrial profiteer, I would say. And
mm,
he's saying things that are very dangerous, I think, for world peace. And like, but he's doing this because he can make money. So then they're like, okay, we need to prepare for a war for China. So we need Space Force, blah, blah, blah. We need this and we need that. And Japan right now is trying to make China sound like a threat, so then they can revoke Article 9, so then they can start wars again. And like
yeah,
within centuries, I mean, if you look into China Japan history, like for centuries that they have been neighbors, China had not invaded Japan.
but Japan
China,
invaded.
yeah, and, like maybe they're in 1592, Japan like invaded China through Korea, and like they were then squashed. And but like so being by stating that China is a threat to them, they can then buy all this like military space force and blah blah blah, so then they can prepare for war with everyone else.
Well, it seems like what people are trying to get rid of the guardrails. I mean, the U.S. is trying to blow up NATO
Mhm.
because there's a certain kind of oligarch mindset that is like from these super rich billionaire trillionaires that don't see borders, they don't see rules, they don't see the UN, they don't see any kind of international law. They want to be able to go wherever they want. They want to be able to grab resources and people and power wherever they see it. And
Yeah,
if they go and cause an arms race, well, that makes them money. If
yeah,
they cause people to hate their neighbor, that makes them money. I mean, though, if you look on the net, the algorithm works when you do things that push hate. You make money pushing hate more than if you push peace and love. You don't get that many people clicking on you.
yeah, that's true, that's very true.
So they kind of are designed to create this disruption and create this, and they create whatever reality, and then you just feed your own base. Like you only see the things you agree with. The
Yeah,
algorithms only reinforce the things you agree with, which creates like tribalism, nationalism, all the isms that are bad.
yeah,
Because then you don't have like the holistic mindset, or like like the Socratic method, critical thinking. That doesn't work if you only see what you agree with.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think like the algorithm really pushes have you heard of Nick Fuentes?
Oh
We're
yeah,
seeing all kinds of things, and I'm
yeah.
just like,
I know who
whoa,
he is.
how is the algorithm really pushing
If
this?
well, that's it. I mean, they push. I mean, the Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes in the same space. I mean, that whole thing, they made millions of dollars. They got millions of followers
Right,
pushing things or this. Oh, if I say that, oh wow, he's willing to say that. So the
right,
shock, it's like a shock value. They used to call
right.
them like a radio shock jocks. They would say something
Mm,
racy. They would say something racy, like Howard Stern. He was like a shock jock. Right. But now
yeah,
it's gotten even worse than that. Because it's like it was this, maybe you were saying like you're being like George Carlin. You were saying something like foul, maybe the FCC is gonna ding you. Now you're actually no FCC on the net. You can just
yeah,
do whatever you want.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, anyway, and so yeah, so our nonprofit, we're just trying to really push to like humanize the stories that are like being normally forgotten in World War II. And after World War II, there was the Cold War, and so then the United States really needed Japan's help in fighting China. And so they took out war criminals from Sugamo prison and made them gave them power essentially. And like a lot of the Unit 731 human experimentation like scientists were also given like um deals to not only get out of jail free, um but also like have like prominent career. And that to me is just injustice. Like I have a feeling that we now live in a multi-tier justice system, versus like if you have something to sell and you have something to trade, then the system is not going to come
Oh
against you.
yeah, I mean, if you can look at that, I mean, the same thing happened in Germany. I mean, the whole NASA and our ICBM program was built on all these
Operation
Nazi,
Paperclip.
all these Nazi engineers. Right? We did the same thing. We guys, okay, you guys won't go to Nuremberg. You guys
Right.
can go work for NASA. You can work for the Defense Department. You work for,
So yeah, so what's interesting to me is that like if you have something to trade, then they're going to like buy it, right? And what's most interesting in that sense is that like then at what point like so mass murder is okay if you can benefit from it.
Well, yeah. If I have a device like the intercontinental ballistic missile, the rocket technology, advanced mechanical engineering technologies, right?
Yeah.
If you can provide that, or chemistry or biology, if you can provide that, even if you were somebody that was doing eugenics, somebody that was doing like experimental, like basically torture against people, right? But if I can use that, then I can forget about it. If I can't use it, then you're probably going to go down. But if I
Yes,
can use
that's
it,
exactly what they did. In Unit 731, they had like people testing against like frostbite. They basically just left them in like -5 degrees Celsius outside, and then they cut their limbs to like test for frostbite, how to treat frostbite. And then after the war, they were like, actually, it's cool now. Uh, because they were working with the investigators from the United States. The United States occupied Japan, and they spent, it's not 3 months, it's not 3 weeks, they spent 3 years trying to see and analyze what these people have. And it's not like this is just like a low level decision. They made this decision with like top scientists from the United States at the time to really see and like analyze what they have, what these people have. And so and at the end of the day, then they gave these people full immunity. Like for example, this guy figured out how to do Naito figured out how to powderize anthrax. And so then not only was he released, their reports were bought for like a couple $1 million at the time. And then this Naito guy then later became like a pharmaceutical CEO, executive, back in Japan. So, and it's like these narratives and these stories that people don't get to hear. And it's not like when I'm reading about like these human experimentation report, no one survived because because of the secrecy and because of how awful these experiments were. And so when I read these reports, I just have a feeling that like, you know, I read it, but I actually don't understand the extent of like suffering
Yeah, it was just
from
human cruelty for the
yeah,
for pushing the power. I mean, to do it is military power is why you create these weapons, right? But then they become monetized,
right.
and then when you have like the Cold War, well, having a chemical weapon or a biological weapon will make you a lot of money. In the Cold War framework, you become a billionaire, trillionaire if you build a weapon you're not supposed to use.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been watching Fallout. On It's so interesting because like fall on in Fallout, the theme is that they start the war first, so then they can like sell these like shelters for a ton of money. I feel like it's like that in the real world too, and it's just it's fascinating, and
Yeah,
we
it
spend
was.
so much money at wars, but we can never fix our streets.
Yeah, I mean that's
Like for
the danger.
example,
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
why don't we just call Chicago Little Venezuela? Then we can have some regime change, and then you were like, oh, let's run Venezuela, but like why not run our
Well,
cities
you can't
first?
even run your own country, and you're going to run another country. We're going to run Greenland, but it really gets to the point of like today we have all this AI technology being used in warfare. I mean, it's creating all kinds of warfare, and like people's poor people, peasants all over the world are being used as like guinea pigs for drone technology, right? Drone technology is being used in all kinds of battlefields everywhere, from Ukraine to Gaza to anywhere, right? And peasants are getting killed by it. And these
Yeah,
tech companies are saying, "Oh, like that's a good test result. Let's monetize that." you know,
yeah.
and so it's the same. Like we haven't learned anything from World War II. We're still continuing to take the new tech, there's new ideas, and then use it not to solve cancer, not to feed the poor, not to help people, but to hurt people.
And allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly because these files are not fully declassified, but we're pretty sure that the Unit 731 weapons were then later used for the Korean War. It was used for against North Korea. And now, with Gaza, the situation that it's in, who knows? There's like journalism silence, who knows what's actually happening there. And that's why, I think it's really important to study history because we can really learn from history, and it's a much more clearer picture when everything is declassified.
Yeah, I think knowledge should be spread, but we got people who want to limit knowledge. They want to like tell you like, you can't, like as a journalist, you can't go into the Defense Department anymore. They used to be there, and now you can't go there, right? And if you say something, they can say, well, even though you've got freedom of the press, they can actually say, well, you're doing something that's like against our national
National
interest.
interest.
So what's that? Do we have a Bill of Rights or do we have something else? So
It's interesting because, in countries like China, right? A Chinese person said this to me that Chinese people know their press just not to be trusted, but Americans trust their press still. And so even though that, all the media is kind of fake news, it's just the attitude of the people.
yeah, well, the problem is like because the corporate structure of everything,
Yeah.
that when you go and you monopolize, when you go and you have all these mergers, then journalism goes down the toilet because like if you can't if you're it used to be that journalist, it wasn't about making money, it's about telling the truth.
Hmm.
But if your newsroom is run by some corporate interest, they suddenly won't let that journalist go and do that expose that actually is going to affect their stock price, or it's going to affect their bond price, it's going to affect their merger. So now you can't do it unless you're underground, or you just
Yeah.
put on the net, or you're some kind of blogger,
Or
you
they
know.
call you a conspiracy theorist. It's very interesting, how that goes. Like for example, I was researching about like Unit 731, and then I was looking into like biological warfare, and like this guy named Jeff K, at which I invited him onto our podcast and our YouTube channel. He was talking about, the biological weapons being dropped into North Korea. And when I was looking at the chart, I'm like, this is very possible because, as I understand, United States acquired this weapon, and who knows what the hell was going on afterward. And then, but then, like, I saw somewhere on the internet that they have already labeled Jeff K, which I thought his research was pretty good, as a conspiracy theorist.
It
And
depends on who labels them.
yeah,
Like it kind of depends, they who labeled who, like because everything is so polarized.
yeah.
Right? So which group is calling you the conspiracy theorist, right? Because if somebody, there are people who will say, the sky is purple, right? And then they believe
Yeah.
it, right? And if you tell them it's actually blue, they say that you're the conspiracy theorist. So I mean, I don't know how to how to judge anything anymore because like it depends on who's got the control of the ether, right?
Yes, and I find that it's interesting because, like, if you watch international news nowadays, international news and domestic news in America are very different. So it really is depending on like which narrative you want to hear. And I always think that, like, if you want to see current news, like the truth is always somewhere in the middle between domestic news and international news.
yeah, I mean, you watch like BBC, you watch Al Jazeera, you watch international news. You have to. The way I look at things is, in order to have like a full picture, I kind of need to see all the channels, and then I'll discern what this side's saying, what that side's saying, somewhere in the middle, or somewhere here or there. It depends on the issue, is the truth. But you can't just get it, from one side, and because there's so many shades of gray everywhere that you've got to be have some critical thinking in terms of does somebody have an interest in telling me this, right? Is there actually a corporate interest behind what they said, right? Or is it if they say something and it's not going to give them a monetary hit, like they're not going to make tons of money on crypto, then maybe that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you have to have some discernment. But it's just interesting that you chose to be a creator and actually use this as your topic because you felt like you need to tell people something that was historically important.
Yes, and I think it still resonates today. Like, for example, this is an interesting story. We were doing interviews in the Central Coast and about the Philippines, fighting against Japan in World War II. And what's interesting from that is that I did not realize that, like, when we think about women in war, we think about women as like victims and whatnot. And what's interesting is that, like, these women that Stacy interviewed were not victims. They actually fought against the Japanese. And then I was then asking them, like, hey, but it was it was an American colony. And I learned that, like, when they were fighting against the Japanese, well, actually, when the Japanese arrived after Pearl Harbor in the Philippines, they were like, at first they welcomed the Japanese. They were like, oh my gosh, finally we get to be liberated from Americans like control. But then after they saw the Japanese brutality, they were just like, okay, maybe let's start, America was not that bad.
Yeah, you go with the devil you know. Well, it's like you go with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, because it's just different levels.
Right, of brutality. And so then, like, that really lets me to think, like, wow, this is just like the world's all comparative, isn't it? Like, and nowadays the news is always making like the Philippines is like our strongest ally in the Pacific, but I feel like that's a forced ally because they I mean, Philippines has been a colony since the American Spanish War. And so that's really a forced ally, and now America is going to rebuild their base. And I don't know if you've seen like titles or like news headlines in the Philippines that say that now are that around that area is going to be the most amount of single moms, because now the GIs are going to go there,
Come
and
back again. Yeah. Well,
this is very it's very dark humor.
yeah,
But
I get
that's like
it.
the kind of stories that I want to tell, like as a creator, as into like history that actually matter, that actually affected people's lives, right? It's not like I just want to make up a story and
No, you're telling like the consequences, because the thing is, like, people play these like Kissinger balance of power games. So you put a base here, you do an action here. You don't think about what does it do to the average man or woman on the street, right?
right.
What does it do to that family
Hmm.
when you go and take an action that somebody's like playing chess on a world stage? They get the Nixon Kissinger balance of power was this concept in the Cold War, and
Yeah.
everybody's like a pawn and they're
Hmm.
just playing games. And the games you do, the choices you make in Cambodia and Vietnam and what you do in Nigeria, whatever you do, it has a consequence,
Yes.
right? And they just talk about, oh, we're fighting the Red Scare, we're fighting this, we're doing this, we're doing that. But you don't like, did you actually make it better for that family on the street
Right.
or not?
Hmm.
Most of the time you didn't.
And it's interesting because now you're not going to hear about that from the news because of Operation Mockingbird, obviously, and also because of CBS, who just bought CBS, right?
Yeah,
So
I
of
know.
course you're not going to hear about you're
No,
not
all you
going to
hear
hear
is like, "Oh, I'm gonna
hear.
interview Rubio and say how great he is." It's like sounds like something I wouldn't have saw. Like, wasn't somebody like doing that in Iraq? Like Baghdad Bob is always saying, "Well, we're winning when we're losing."
That happened in World War II as well. Japan was losing by like 1944. Finally, the tide was turning, and then the Prime Minister Tojo was going on the radio saying, "Oh, Japan is still winning, guys. Don't worry,
Yeah,
we're going to win."
yeah. It's always that double speak. It's like the Orwellian double speak. That's where we live in a world of like the double speak is really big. It's like we're really strong with the double speak everywhere. It's like it's
Yeah,
it's coming from everywhere, and like, okay, and people want to believe good news because they just want to. Most people are just trying to get through their 9 to 5, trying to pay their rent, trying to pay their mortgage, trying to buy their food, and so
right.
I just worried today because in the 70s, people would sit down and read a paper, sit down and read a book. Now everybody is on the net. They got 15 seconds, 30 seconds to get pulled into something. How much thought is really going into it? Do you find the people that come to you are actually really diving deep and staying long on your site?
That's a very good question. We used to publish books because I'm like, okay, maybe we can make like history like into a short book form, right? Then people started abandoning that, and so then we started making videos, and then our videos were hitting. But then like one day I noticed that our videos now have like, people are clicking into it for like 30 seconds. And so now we're making shorts. So shorts on our YouTube is actually the fastest way that we're growing, which is scary because like some of the short, I'm like trying to put it into context, but how much history can you
Yeah,
push into like 30 seconds of shorts? And so like,
yeah.
now every day we're uploading like 3 shorts, and like it's just this attention game. Like and Instagram would not even allow you to upload video for like over 3 minutes now, and the algorithm would not push long
I
video
mean, it
like
won't put.
over
Yeah,
three minutes.
nothing of any substance is pushed. It's always just the quick hits, and
Yeah.
people have to do these quick cuts. They go in with CapCut. They do all
I
these
was
tools.
reading, yeah, I was reading that like nowadays because of brain rot, the average like attention span is now 6 seconds.
Terrible. Like in music, I'm a musician, right? You got like less than 30 seconds to get somebody to like get the hook of a song.
Yeah.
Sometimes the engagement's like 5 seconds. If people don't hear it, they just drop it. And the thing is, like, if like I'm a jazz guy, right? Most jazz music is like 7, 15 minutes long. right? So like these people today, like they can't get into something if they don't hear it. Well, in my compositions, there's tons of
Yeah,
changes.
like
Like,
Instagram music. I mean, people back in the day used to listen to radio, but then now like Instagram music is like the thing. So then you now need to like time your music with like your Instagram reel and then like hope that it hits. And then and it's so funny because we have the internship program and most of my interns are like Gen Z and they're like they don't listen to the radio anymore and they know songs that they've heard on Instagram, like for example like the song goes on like whatever on Instagram, they know like if they catch interest within like 3 seconds they're going to look it up on Spotify.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's really crazy that I just worry that you can't really make a good decision if you only spend 15 seconds on something. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of the people I heard film directors were saying they can't write complicated scripts because the
Yes.
people's attention span, they can't deal with like hidden or deep messages or something that you'd have to watch a movie twice to get. People
Well,
won't do
it's
it.
interesting. Have you heard of this like this trend of microfilm, micro drama? Like you have to make your drama hit within 15 seconds, and now there are like these apps. I think micro drama is taking over Hollywood now, like the market share of micro drama. And like when I go out in like downtown or whatever, I see, or when I go to like a shopping mall, I see people on their phone scrolling micro drama, which is like scary to me because like if you click onto like one episode on Instagram, it's always so like over the top and
Yeah, it's like you can't get anything that's gonna have any kind of building or any
right,
kind of complexity, right? Something that's not obvious. Like,
right.
and the thing is, sometimes for your brain to really digest, you need something that's not gonna just hit you over the head,
And
right?
so, for example, right now our shorts are on YouTube. We get some comments from like our old time followers that are like, "Oh, this short is not really explaining the whole story." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, please watch the whole video. We have to cut it in short because the algorithm likes shorts.
Yeah, it's just so I was hoping that there's a pushback because it's like junk food. Like there's a reason you go to that local restaurant that's not franchised. You go to the food truck. You don't go to the franchise place because you want something that's actually going to feed your soul. And I
Right,
think people with media and information, the people are going to start realizing you're getting and taking so much junk that at some point you're going to decide like maybe I need something substantial. Maybe
right.
I need to slow down and maybe not look at everything and make certain decisions about things that I'm concerned with.
Yeah, I think so. It's very interesting that like it's hard for. I think it's like Kurt Vonnegut said this that like reading a book is really like exercise for your mind and people it's like playing a violin. People who can like read words and like have words have meaning, it's kind of like an exercise and I don't really see that happening anymore with people who can like read words and sit down and like I mean reading a book is really not a big deal like but like for now
It's a
people
big
need
deal
things.
nowadays. Because I find it because I'm in tech. Like I'm a software guy, right? And I've
Yeah.
been a software guy since the 70s. And we find sometimes the young kids come in and like they're really good at doing something quickly. But like if I'm like I've been on projects where it takes a year to build like something, right? And these guys want to build these apps, and apps are like junk food. You can build them real fast.
Yeah.
But when we have to build something more substantial, some of these young kids coming out, they have a problem because they can't really get these really intricate systems. And it's like the system is kind of falling down with some of the people coming out because they don't have the critical thinking. They don't step back and ask questions. They don't really kind of like why, what, how,
And I
what.
also find it very interesting too that like people like to label things, right? Like for example, if you talk about like the why Vietnamese were fighting, and then they were like, that's a communist statement. So then they have all these isms. They have like all these things. Like, for example, if you talk about like Chinese victims during World War II, they're like, that's CCP. Like, that's communism.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
filter.
think that people were fighting the war trying to survive, going like, oh, this is I'm trying to fight for this communism like cause. I don't think people were fighting a war of like invasion, like, oh, I'm going to fight for this like capitalistic, like there's a lot of like labeling involved. And then
There's
when you
all these
talk,
filters. Yeah, I think
yeah, and so then it's like everything needs to fit very neatly into a narrative that they have in their mind, and then this narrative is shaped by like 6 seconds videos. That is like the most like frustrating part I have in terms of like creating content for like for anything now, because you can't have like a very deep conversation. All you can have is like the 6 second video, and then you have to fit what you're trying to say in that 6 seconds. Is very it's very tough times. It's very interesting.
yeah, it's like kind of like it's like you have to do kind of a clickbait to
Yes,
get somebody to come in, and then
right,
if it's a deeper thing, it's like further in, because if you got to avoid getting like put into these lanes, because
right,
people want to filter as, oh, that's communist, that's socialist, that's democratic, that's MAGA, that's this, what's like that. Right. So if soon as somebody sees something, it's like, oh, it's that. That means
yeah,
I don't like it. Right. So if you have to try to not get, unless you want to draw that person in. So like either you're trying to grab a certain political group or certain demographic, and so you're gonna go, you want all the alpha males. So you're gonna be pushing something for the alpha males, or you're pushing something for the tech bros, or you're pushing something for this. And so that's what you have to do. But it's so narrow. I like to look at something. Maybe I don't agree with that. Maybe I need to know about something I don't know. Right.
but I think with the 6 second videos, things are so polarized that they can only have one side of things. So then in the next video, if you talk about like a different topic or like look at a thing in a certain way, then they unsubscribe, right? I mean, I don't know if you have had that
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
as a creator. And then
Well, I
not
have
only
a
do they
very wide
unsubscribe.
podcast. My podcast is very wide open. I do a lot of different topics.
Okay.
And people told me I shouldn't do that, but I've been able to kind of, because I'm live, and so some people like certain episodes and some people don't like certain. But I decided I'm not going to just pin on one thing. So a lot of people told me, "Oh, you shouldn't do that because it's so specialized." But I've actually done well because I'm bucking that kind of trend.
Yeah.
But it's not something people would tell you to do
Right.
because they want you to just speak to your tribe. And I
Yeah.
don't want to just speak to my tribe.
You don't want to be in the echo chamber.
No, it's boring. I mean, I'm a musician, and like I don't like to just keep on doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm more of somebody that's experimental. I'll try something that's a 1920s beat, or I'll try something fusion. I'll go do some classical, or do some jazz, or some bebop. I'll bounce around multiple genres, and then people will say, "Oh, how are you going to sell that?" I'm an experimental musician. That's how you sell it.
But you also have your tech job, so it's okay.
Yeah. My tech job is I can get away with it because I can do what I want. But same thing with the podcast, because I have a tech job, I can do the way I want to do it. So it gives you freedom. So people have to decide, like, how big do you want to be? I mean, you want to be a Joe Rogan, or do you want to say what you want to say?
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're trying to be like the Joe Rogan, there's certain things you got to do. Right. If you're trying to say what you want to say, and
Right.
you believe in what you're doing, then you could be out here for a lot of years doing, like, how long have you been doing your show or your podcast?
My podcast, we used to only do like voiceover videos, and we were doing that for at least 3 years. And then now we just started doing this podcast a few months ago, just because I want to like invite guests. I want to have deeper dive. I don't want to like just research. And so, yeah. And it's interesting once you like cut things down, and then people really like, not only do they unsubscribe, they like call you name while they're unsubscribing.
Yeah, but the haters. Like, there's a lot of haters. I don't really like, the thing is, haters do it causing certain level of engagement, but but by my whole thing is like, okay, fine. It's like if it's not your cup of tea, why you have to spend so much energy being a hater?
Right, and then some people really cannot like I have this one hater who was a hater, was like, "Oh, I'm unsubscribing," but then the next day he's like still commenting on my videos,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
sometimes the
dude,
haters create a lot of
I really
engagement.
appreciate you guys with the engagement, but like, why are you like? And this guy would like leave like 5 comments in a row, and then just nonstop. I'm like, dude, you're creating engagement, which is good for me, but at the same time, like, can you
Well,
stop?
these people got that conundrum, they get pulled into the thing that they say they don't like, but then they're there all the time. So then they're kind of questioning.
But I think there's something I mean, I'm not a neuroscience kind of girl, but there must be something happening with like the 6 seconds videos, and also with like people who get so like pulled in to like leave hater comments. Like it must be in the same, like something must be happening to our brain in this digital world.
Yeah, I think people would just get pulled into the thing that triggers them. So like whatever triggers you, and if it triggers you to keep on engaging, right, and then you're getting like all stressed out. I'm like, really? It's like you're causing your own stress. It's like, okay, that's up to you. Because like if I don't like something, I don't watch it. I don't keep on going to it.
Right.
But you keep on doing it. It's like, okay, I guess you have to ask the question. You must like it. Like subconsciously, you like it. So like,
so I appreciate the support, even if they leave a comment, say that they hate me or whatever, they hate the topic. So if you guys are watching it, if you want to express your feeling, feel free to go into the comments. It helps Phantom out with engagement. It shows the algorithm that he's creating engagement, so feel free.
Yeah. Well, we do have your QR code that will go right to your YouTube. So
Okay,
if people
great.
want to do that, the QR code up there now is like it will go to your YouTube channel. And so, like, how often do you record?
We record normally. We record like we try to do it. We used to do it once a month. Then people like are really resonating and really commenting. So now we're doing like once a week.
Oh, cool.
And then might increase if we get more subscribers and more engagement and more members. So yeah. How often do you record?
Well, like when I start really kicking off, like typically I do about 5 shows a week. But like this year, this at the end of last year, I gave myself like the month of December. I took a break. Normally, I have maybe 15 to 20 episodes a month. But then I gave myself a break. But this month, I'm coming back to that. So I'm about 15 to 20 episodes a month.
Wow.
So I give myself the weekends off. But that's.
And how's it been going? How's it been going like with recording? Like,
well, yeah, because I do live, it's kind of weird. Like tonight, I actually have another one at 7. It's like 6 o'clock here. So some days I'll do like 2 shows a day or 3 in one day. And then other times, because I'm a musician too, so sometimes I have some time for my rehearsals and recording. But I just feel like the engagement to me is just talking to people, being an artist. The more you talk to people, like you talk to writers like to go around talking to people or observing people because it gives them ideas. And so my whole people would say, well, how can you do a podcast? Doesn't that interfere with your music? I said, no, it actually helps my music because it gives me ideas and gives me comment. Like it makes my mind think of things that maybe I wouldn't have thought of if I hadn't to talk to somebody.
Yeah, now you're going to make 6 seconds songs that's gonna hit on Instagram.
I still do my 10-minute songs. I still do my 10-minute songs.
I do podcasting with James Bradley nowadays. He's like he was a New York Times best-selling author for Flags of Our Father. I think he was on the chart for like 60 weeks. And I asked him like, how do you feel that people are now like watching 15 seconds videos of you like talking to me on the podcast instead of reading your book? He's like, well, I'm still going to write books, but
yeah, still gotta write them. There's gotta be somebody, everybody's doing the audio book because they gotta like multitask. So he's like, oh, like I see all these people now. It's like they just like they read books through audiobooks.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm walking my dog and it's like a recreational book that I'm reading, I do just put on my earplugs and just walk him. It's like no big deal.
Yeah, because that's one way that people are able to get the books in. So I see a lot of authors I've talked to really in this world now have to do an audiobook to get additional engagement, because if they just do the written book, they might not get all the engagement. I mean, they still have a really hardcore group of people who like to read, but
Right.
it's not where it was, you know.
Exactly.
But it's interesting that have you ever thought of getting back into books, or are you saying, no, I'll just stick with
Oh,
podcasting
we
and
do books.
you
I
still
still do books. Yeah. In fact, we just published a book, The Rise of the Quantum Army, and we spent like 2 years researching into it. And this is the first English book about Quantum Army. Actually, maybe the first book, because I couldn't find one in Chinese either.
Oh
And
wow.
it's basically about like how the invasion of China was able to happen. Um, and so I highly recommend your listeners, if you're listening, get a copy, because we go into details. And the last episode that I just did with Quinn on our podcast talks about how parallel and like neat line it really is of Japan today and Japan when they were getting ready for a full scale war.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It seems like we got people at the wheel that just don't understand the dangers that they're bringing us into.
Yeah.
They just seem to be like, hey, I just throw the lighter fluid on the fire and wonder, how did they become a conflag? How did we get into this massive conflagration? Like,
I'm
what's
just trying to live an easy life. I'm not trying to like survive a war. I'm trying.
yeah? I mean, nobody needs that. I mean, I
And
don't
it
think
feels like we're
they,
dangerously walking into trying to survive a war.
I'm just wondering, like taking everybody's food stamps and taking all their healthcare away, so they all join the military so they can go running into Central America.
Oh, wow,
Like we're wondering, like in the U.S., it's like maybe that's the plan. It's like if you have to join the military to get your healthcare, then you have an army that can go somewhere.
wow, that's fascinating insight. I mean, I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, maybe. I
Sometimes
mean,
people think a little, people say, well, these guys aren't thinking. I said, well, they're thinking, and it's not thinking the way you want to think.
well, and also they're not thinking in like for people, for peasants like you and me. They're thinking for their big donor group. They're thinking for people, who are going to benefit, who donated to their campaign, and those people need to benefit. It's not like donation to a political campaign nowadays is basically like an investment.
Well, yeah. I mean, most of the big donations are coming from these billionaire trillionaires or these massive PACs that
Yeah,
are basically a big conglomeration of millionaires. So you get guys from like all the crypto guys, all the oil guys, all the plastic guys. Every group then has like a PAC, and they put their money and they put their candidate in, and their candidate has nothing to do with the worker.
right.
It's the boss,
Hmm.
and the boss's boss. That's who they're doing it for. And people say, "Oh, that's communist." It's like, well, like go see, is the boss helping you out, or is he not?
Yeah, it's interesting that and they get themselves into a blog, and like we have an illusion of a choice, but we actually don't. I mean, we don't have a choice at all. I mean, think about most of the people, the interest group are not our interest group. So
Yeah, like both. I mean, our side, like within the U.S., is like the Democratic Party and Republican Party are all pushed by these big PACs, and all these
right,
PACs are big corporate, multinational, transnational interests
right,
that don't
exactly.
have our national interests. They're like they have these global interests, and so they're doing stuff that doesn't even represent your town, your state. It represents some global interest. It has nothing to do with you, right?
Right.
And so it's like but people don't want to think about that. They just want to think about like, I don't like my neighbor, I don't like this immigrant, I don't like that, and so they get into that, and then they forget. It's like that's why power struggles are divide and conquer, make you hate the other. Then you don't worry about your own. Like maybe the boss is the problem.
And social media 6 seconds videos are going to distract you, so you're not seeing what is right in front of you.
Yeah, it's like why would you identify with the trillionaire? Why
Yeah.
do you think what the trillionaire wants? Are you going to win the lottery? Are you really going to win the lottery? I don't know how many people win, and when they win, they usually don't manage their money that good.
Yeah, I was reading that some guy won, and then now he's back to a garbage worker because he just spent all of
Because
his
you don't
money.
have the skill set to manage it in the first place.
Right. Yep, exactly. But yeah, it was great chatting with you. I gotta run to my next
Okay.
appointment.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go and let people know that QR code's out there. And I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and it was a great discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, and is it cool to add you on our email list just
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
case?
That's cool.
Cool, awesome, and thank you